Headed to the Tintic Mountains, to the Tintic Mining District, through Eureka, Utah, living ghost town, we're headed into Dividend, once known as Standard. Robert here. Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. We have found our way to the Tintic Mining District, to Dividend Ghost Town. Come along and join the adventure. Dividend is 3 to 4 miles over the mountain range. The nearest town is Eureka, Utah. Now back in the early 1900s, there were no roads and just a few trails heading over these beautiful mountains. As mentioned in the beginning, this location was called Standard. But after a while, in 1916, they struck it rich, and it was called Dividend because of how much money all of the stocks paid out to the stockholders. This company town sprang up, and it all of a sudden had a baseball field, a golf course, and upwards of 200 residents. It's one of the first towns in Utah with indoor plumbing. Of course, I've seen that in quite a few towns that say they are the first with indoor plumbing. Now these two tanks on the hill, were pretty relevant, as one said Tintic and the other said Standard, saying that it was the Tintic Standard. But again, this town ultimately paid out its dividends. Now this area we're walking up on looks like the two areas where they loaded the ore cars, again, probably into wagons or a train. I'll drop a photo in here and it shows kind of a rail car or rails that are going through this area. But it almost looks like they would have been on the main road. If anyone can help me out and let me know what these were, please put it in the comments below. The reason I think these are loading platforms is you could just picture rail cars going right in between here, or wagons, and the ore cars being dumped off those platforms. But maybe those connected and went all the way across that little draw. Now the gates here were locked and we couldn't go any further up into this area. There's a tremendous amount up here, but wanted to be respectful. Not only is this a reclaim area, but it's also the location of a tragic murder. One that was pretty well known in Utah and most likely national, but we had no idea that this was the location it happened. The memorial, I'll share some photos right here. Pretty large memorial. Now this is the memorial of Breezy and Riley. I won't get into it much more than that, but this murder was committed very close to this location. And like I said, we had no idea this memorial was here. We were looking for the town, not the memorial. But I'm glad to see it's here, and it is a beautiful location in remembrance. Well, this property has a lot of do not trespass because of the mining company, and that was on the other side of the street. Over here, there's a couple of foundations from the old mining district. And while we're looking at those foundations, a little more history. Through the 1920s, Dividend thrived. Homes were occupied as quickly as they could be constructed. And the town had a sizable Mexican population by 1930. Almost 500 people lived here in Dividend. However, the Tintic Standard was on a decline, and the mining finally came to a close at Dividend in 1947. Now, after all that being said, let's explore a couple of buildings that did not have a no trespass sign. This was outside the gate. What are, or what were, these two buildings? They're solid cement and fairly large. This one had one room, and the next one has a couple. Were these dwellings of some sort? Because this looks like the remains of an old wood stove. Maybe these were residents, but solid cement? Alright, so we're going to head back down the hill here to Eureka, living ghost town, and we're going to share a story with you about a very dangerous man. But before that, let's look at a couple locations. On the drive-in, you may have seen this area coming up here, but this appears to be the area where they loaded the ore into mule-driven wagons, about 1 ton at a time, and they would take it to the railroad that was a few miles away and process it on down through the valley, which was probably 20 miles away. You can see the ore doors right there and all the mechanisms. So here's one of the other buildings. Now there's multiple buildings like this that are made out of cement. What are these? There's no windows and no areas for chimneys. So as I said earlier, are they dwellings? But I don't think so. Please let me know if you know. Some graffiti inside an old cement mining building. And here it is, we're back in Eureka, living ghost town. We love this little town, but here's the story about what this old cabin is about and who used to live in it. Welcome to the cabin of the destroying angel, Porter Rockwell. That's him, painted on a rock, right in front of us. We've walked through Eureka before and been in this cabin, but we did not know the significance of this individual. Rockwell was a personal friend and bodyguard to the prophet Joseph Smith. After Smith's death in 1844, Rockwell became a bodyguard for his successor, Brigham Young, and traveled with him as a member of the church. It is said that Rockwell was 8 years younger than Smith, and while publishing the Book of Mormon, Rockwell picked berries at night and hauled wood into town to help pay for the publishing. Now, Rockwell wasn't a kind man. Rockwell killed many men as a gunslinger, a righteous enforcer and deputy, a United States Marshal. According to legend, Rockwell told a crowd listening to the United States Vice President back then, Colfax, in 1869, "I never killed anyone who wouldn't need killing." Now, this was a quote later used by John Wayne in a movie decades later. It is also said that Mr. Rockwell attempted the assassination of Governor Boggs of Missouri. And this was on May 6, 1842, when he was sitting in his study. Somebody shot him through a window. It is said that that shot was fired by Rockwell as an attempted assassination due to the extermination order, the evicting of Mormons from Missouri by violent and deadly means. Now, this assassination attempt happened, well, not long after the fact that Boggs signed that order. Now here's a quick glimpse of Eureka, ghost town, or I should say semi-ghost town, in Utah. Now this was, of course, the Tintic Mining District Financial Center, and this helped ensure its survival. And this was quite the bustling town. In 1910, Eureka was the 9th largest city in Utah with a population of around 3,900. In 2019, the population was about 107. People still live here, and they have a lot of gift shops and a lot of fun things to see. Now I'll link a video at the end of this one, and that way you can see a more in-depth history and a walk around of the buildings and a tour of the town of Eureka. Now get this, James Cash Penney, in 1909, he built the second Golden Rule store in Eureka, which helped develop his J.C. Penney chain of department stores. And this is the Black Hollow Fever. This is a store I didn't see last time we were here, unless it's new. But this store is full of taxidermy and dark oddities. Super nice folks in here. They gave us a little bit of information of other places to visit around Eureka and a little bit of the history. But I found this to be a very well put together store, kind of a nice little find here in Eureka. They're on Instagram at Black Hollow Fever. Now every time we come to Eureka, not only is it a living ghost town with an amazing museum, they also have a motorcycle museum. This location has a tremendous amount of off-roaders and also motorcyclists that come through town. It almost gave me a mini Oatman, Arizona vibe. But at least it got pulled back here into this building for a photo shoot with a polar bear. A polar bear in Utah? That seems a little out of place. But don't worry, she wasn't too scared. And that's gonna do it for today. From Dividend Ghost Town in Eureka, Utah, living ghost town. We'll see you in the next one. Polar bears in the desert. Who'd have thought it? And hey, if you'd like to join our fan club, you can click on the link below. Also, there's an Amazon store with the equipment we use and recommend for traveling and searching out these amazing old ghost towns. We'll see you in the next one.